Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regular scheduled council meeting. It's Tuesday, July the 7th, 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Charlie Davidson.
Here.
George Glover.
Here.
Ben Sosetta. Charles Swanky.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
George Caps.
Here.
Brandy Bailey.
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And Ben did notify me that he had a scheduling conflict, so he will not be here tonight. We'll move on with invocation by Pastor Kip Berry, and then a pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilman Schwanky.
Okay, now it's on. Let's bow our heads. Heaven, God in heaven, you have brought us here tonight to do the business of this city. You have ordained our council members to be in the seats that they are at, and they're held at a higher judgment. We ask that you give them counsel, you give them wisdom, and give them grace as they look forward to the future and to plan out things to help us to grow and to be more in your will. In the name of Jesus, we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. We will start with the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Jim.
I move to approve the agenda.
A point of personal privilege here. I'd like to say something, John.
Sure.
I was down on 53rd Street, and the weeds on the right-of-way and the weeds on the right-of-way on hydraulic are an embarrassment. And I know there's been much discussion who's responsible for those, but they are in the city of Park City, and we really need to do something about them. You pull up the stop sign going south on 53rd Street, you cannot see west. If you're sitting legally at the stop sign, you cannot see. They're that high. And I think we need it on the agenda to take some kind of action to get those right-of-ways cleaned up.
Why don't, instead of that, why don't, because I don't think we need an agenda item if there's a safety issue. Why don't, when we do the staff reports for the city administrator, let's discuss it in that, if that works?
Okay, that'll work for me.
All right, thank you. So I have a motion to approve the agenda. I just need a second. And Brandy, your lights lit up?
Second.
All right, have a motion to approve the agenda by Jim, seconded by Brandy. Seeing no further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Have no awards and presentations tonight, public forum. I have Mr. Gary Aldridge just signed up. Familiar face. Thank you for coming tonight.
I'm Gary Aldridge, I live at 1211 East Evanston Street. I just wanted to address something I saw in a flyer that was handed out, I'm assuming to everybody, and I actually saw the video as well. And one of the things that kind of caught me by surprise was stated in a number of different areas in this flyer was that the average cost to a Park City resident of the 1% sales tax increase was about $2.47 a month. Now I started thinking about that, okay, if the only thing I do is shop at Leakers and I spend $60 a week, I can agree with that, okay? That's about $247 a month, okay? But as I started thinking about it, there's a lot of other places where I pay sales tax, okay? If I go to Amazon, okay, for instance, and purchase something from Amazon, and I'll read it right out of their thing. It says the tax rate applied to your order will be combined sales, state and local taxes, rates for the address where your order is either delivered or fulfilled from, okay? For example, if you live in a state that does not impose a sales tax, you may still see tax calculated on your order if shipped to another state. That's just one area where you may find that 1% is not just gonna be going to leakers, it's gonna be when you order something from Amazon, okay? And I started thinking about other areas that we pay sales tax on. If you purchase a car, example, anything that you have to title, that you have to pay taxes on, would also be applied to that. And I have the document that, from the state that says that they actually do that when you purchase a vehicle, for instance. Okay? So then there's other things where we're talking about the food sales tax being cut, okay, or eliminated eventually. As of now, the state legislature has not ruled on whether or not they will still impose your city sales taxes on food. Okay? So everything that's normally taxable today, as far as the food tax, would still be taxed under a city or a county tax, not just the state tax. So, you know, it kind of looked to me like there was some question about where the $2.47 came from. In fact, I called Ben earlier this evening and said, you know, help me understand this, and he really didn't have an explanation. But I think it bears looking into because the cost of this to the city and whether or not we enact it or we don't, I think people need to understand. This is not just going to hit about leakers, okay? Now, when you go to a CID, which I know that the council has entertained, and you go to, oh, let's say, Costco or somebody else of that nature came to town and wanted to take advantage of the CID, that can be an extra 2%, okay, which is allowed under a CID. So now you're up to 3 if you shop in those stores, okay? So even though it's state food taxes eliminated, you're still going to pay it if you go to a store like that. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that, and if the council has something that tells me otherwise, I'd be glad to hear it. But I thought that the $2.47 that's stated in a number of places in this booklet was a little misleading, okay? So I want the council and the residents in general to understand it. It's much more than the $2.47. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I do want to say one thing, because something I did look at, and Sean can answer in just a second on where the numbers came from, because I do think it's important that we get the story out of what the 1% is. Not that we're saying yes or no, it's our job to put it to the people, let them vote and decide what they want to do. But that $2.47, as I was looking at it, it says $2.47 based on a 5-mile radius of 61st and 135.
Correct.
So some of that grabs Valley Center, some of that grabs Keachai, I mean, even over to Bel Air even. So I mean, that number is it's probably not an exact figure, but I'm not sure that it's high or low.
The estimate of what a 1% sales tax could derive, what it could generate, was provided to us by the state. And then we had the retail report that sat there and said, who shops in Park City? Everybody within 5 miles of Park City is only 12%. So if you figure out 12% of what the total revenue earned should be, divide that by the total number of residents, that's how the $2.47.
I understand the calculation, but I think it's based on the limited scope of what's going to be taxed. That's my deal.
Yeah.
Okay? And I mean, you got your utilities are going to be taxed. You got your phones. You got all the other things that come along with that.
If I could, sir, because Ben called me this afternoon trying to find out some questions, and I said I'd be happy to look out just now, not at the time, but the water utility bill that is generated in Park City, that is our utility, yes, that has a sales tax on it, and yes, that would be subject to that. Your gas bill, your electric bill, your phone bill, those are not generated in Park City. So it's point of service. I mean, if you buy something from somebody in Clearwater, Kansas, just because you live in a place that has a higher sales tax doesn't mean that you pay it because of where you live. It's where the point of sale is at.
Okay. I guess I would have to further look at that because cellular signals go everywhere.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you, Gary. All right. Staff reports, Sean.
Sir, I just have a couple things to bring up. First of all, we'd like to thank our Community Relations Board. I'm certain council mentioned this in their closing comments, but the 4th of July weekend was a wonderful, spectacular event, went off very well. And then the other thing was today was the start of the public hearings on the historic horse racing facilities. At the start of the morning, there was two applicants. And after an hour and 15-minute executive session came out, they disqualified one of the applications. So the Ruffin application is the only application that they are considering at this time. They are still going through all the motions, all the formality. So Ruffin Group went ahead and prepared and presented a presentation for about 2 hours this afternoon. There will be public comment tomorrow. And then Thursday, they will make a decision as far as awarding a particular license. But I just wanted to give council a bit of information that the Boyd Gaming one was, their application was disqualified. So.
And then the other thing was what George brought up.
Well,
As far as the weeds,
I know there's been a lot of discussion who's responsible for those right-of-ways, but the bottom line is they're in Park City, and it's an embarrassment to our city.
yes, sir.
Is there some way we can get those weeds cut down?
Yes, sir, we can.
Where's this at? Is this in somebody's specific property that?
I can talk to it.
Tom?
Go ahead.
It's, there's a hotel and a gas station, and they're doing the best they can mowing the ditches. But we created a monster about 6 years ago when we did 53rd Street. We were supposed to put box culverts in, we didn't do it. And so now you got trees and everything. It looks like the ditch that you took care of that one year by the fire station. The one down 53rd Street looks just like it. And when you pull up on Primrose, I had to turn right and go down a private road and get out and go on the light tonight because I couldn't make a left-hand turn because I couldn't see far enough on 53rd Street to pull out in front of anybody.
Yes, sir.
So we got 4-foot weeds at the intersection. And then there's something else that I think we put a stop sign or a yield sign up on the access road in front of the gas station there on the south side. There's a stop sign that's been missing on the west end of that road for 2 or 3 years. And people, if they're pulling through there and they think they can beat you, they'll pull out in front of you because there's nothing says they have to stop. So, and I don't know if that's our jurisdiction or if it belongs to the hotels. Because at one time that road wasn't Park City.
Okay. Staff will look at that.
Okay.
Charles?
If you drove down 53rd Street today, there was a host of city employees out there cutting, chopping, weed eating, and doing a really good job. And I think they got about a full block to the west of 135. They haven't hit, I don't think they got clear to Primrose yet. But I'm hoping that's going to continue, you know. I'd talked to Sean earlier about the fact that we're so short on employees. I know that's putting them in a bind of whether there's any possibility of hiring contract mowing services to help out in this. This is the worst time. We had our rainy season, and those weeds are growing like weeds. Literally. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to keep up with for the next 30 days, I'm sure. But I don't know if you were able to review that suggestion or not.
Good. Next, we have a consent agenda. Charlie?
I move that we approve consent agenda as written.
Brandy?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to new business, consider presentation of 2022 financial audit.
No, I left it on.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Gerber. I lead the governmental nonprofit practice within our office at Forvis. Been there for about 18 years now. Forvis might be a new name to you. We were previously known as BKD, so this is actually our third year doing your audits, but under a new name. We merged with another firm last year, came up with a new name, so that's the reason for the change here. I'm going to go through two documents with you today here, and I think they were both passed out, but I'd really like to start by just thanking your finance team for their hard work in getting us what we need to do our audit. Dee here is in attendance, but their entire team did a great job getting us what we need as usual, so really appreciate their help getting through this audit here. The financial statements, I've got maybe a different copy than yours, but this is going to be what includes the numbers and the opinion and things like that. Just a couple things that I want to mention here with regards to those statements. Please keep in mind, you do report on a regulatory basis, so a cash basis of reporting rather than accrual. That's a little bit different reporting basis. But we have issued a clean opinion based on your regulatory, your cash basis of accounting. So good news there, that's the opinion that you want. So you certainly like to see that. Also within this report is your schedule of receipts and expenditures. If you look at that year over year, keep in mind also that this was as of calendar year end, so the end of December. But cash balances fairly steady between the years. Activity was fairly consistent as well, but in 2021, you might remember you did have a few bonds and a note that were issued. So that was about $8.5 million of activity that you would have seen in 21 that didn't repeat in 2022, but overall fairly consistent throughout the years. The rest of that statement includes the notes and other budget to actual statements within the back, so feel free to take a look at that at your convenience, just to see some more details in there. The other document that we have is the actual management letter. We issue this as just required communications with management. We always do walkthroughs of your cash cycles just to make sure you have good controls over your cash, both the outflows, inflows, payroll, things like that. If during our audit process or during those walkthroughs, we see anything that could rise to the level of a material weakness or a significant deficiency, those items would mean there's maybe a higher likelihood of error or fraud that could occur. If we do find those, we would write those within our management letter. The good news is, based on our testing, we did not find any of those issues, so a fairly clean management letter, no comments in there with regards to material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. I think something like that speaks to the tone of the top of any organization, starting with this council, but also with your administrator, your finance team, a D. I think they certainly take that to heart, the controls over those assets. So certainly good news there, and hats off to them. That wraps up my prepared comments, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address them now.
I don't see any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think we just need a motion to receive and file the 2022 financial audit. Jim?
I move that we receive and file the 2022 financial audit.
Thank you, Charlie.
Second.
A motion by Jim, seconded by Charlie. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Move to item 6. Discuss and consider approval of a proposed change of zoning district classification from the C1 Central Business District to the R2 Single Family Residential District, located south of 61st Street North between Judson Drive and East Parkview Drive at 1515 East 61st Street North. Russ?
This is a fairly straightforward zoning case. Back in 2007, this property was zoned from R2 to C1 and had been utilized in the intervening years as an insurance agency office. And now the owners of the property want to use it again as a residence and conform with the current zoning code. They are down zoning back to the original zone. Planning Commission approved this request in June 6-0, subject to one condition, and that is that it conforms with the R2 sign rights. If you notice, the property does have a fairly large commercial sign, and the Planning Commission sought to eliminate that sign. The owners are fine with that. No one spoke in opposition
Thank you.
I will point out that approval of this request would be subject to the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Charlie?
I don't have any questions, so I move to approve ordinance 1170, an ordinance changing the zoning district classification of certain lands located in Park City, Kansas, under the authority granted by the zoning regulations of the city as originally approved by ordinance 922-2013.
Brandy?
Second.
Tom?
I was going to second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Charlie Davidson,
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Charles Schwenke,
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Next item is item 7. Discuss and consider approval of the vacation of a sanitary sewer easement within the portion of I-135 Arena Addition located approximately 1/2 mile north of 77th Street, north and east of Broadway Avenue. Russ?
Yes, Mayor, council members, this is a utility easement that was recorded by separate instrument as opposed to being platted, but nonetheless, it was dedicated to the public, so we are vacating it through the typical vacation statutes. This request also was approved by the Planning Commission without comment, 6-0. The subject property is located just to the west between Hartman Arena and Broadway Avenue. This easement provided access to a sewer service line to a residence located just to the northwest of the Hartman Arena. That sewer line had been relocated based on a new tire store construction project, and this particular easement is no longer utilized. So I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Tom?
I don't have any questions. I was going to make a motion we approve the vacation as presented.
Jim?
I'd second that.
And this one's not a roll call vote. Motion by Tom, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to item 8.
Thank you. The final item here is a final plat called the Briarbrook Edition. Council had heard this zone case last month and approved the zone change. We had kind of a weird property configuration of newly annexed property, existing Park City property. So we homogenized the zoning and had heard the preliminary plat. This is the final plat that was approved again, 6-0 by the Planning Commission last month, which perfect the zoning and allowed development of 83 lots, 43 of which along the northern half would be subject to a conditional use that would allow duplexes or two-family residences to be constructed on those 43 lots, with the remaining 40 lots to be single-family to the south. I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Brandy?
I move to approve the final plat as presented.
Tom?
Second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Brandy, seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to item 9. Discuss and consider approving an ordinance amending Article 9 of the Municipal Code related to grease management.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. In April of 1994, Park City passed an ordinance requiring grease traps in food-related businesses which connect to the sewer collection system as a method of waste pretreatment and in order to prevent contamination, fouling, or interference with the proper operation of the wastewater treatment facility. Changes in best management practices have prompted an update to the ordinance, which includes modifications to the grease trap or interceptor inspection schedule, reporting practices for grease removal, licensing requirements for grease haulers, enforcements, and fees. Our goal is to reduce the amount of fat, oil, and grease that is going into the collection system, as well as to increase voluntary compliance through a simplified and easy-to-understand process. Once approved and published, staff will work closely with the food service facilities in order to help businesses understand how the changes affect them, and we are recommending approval of this ordinance. I stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you. George Capps.
Who would do the inspections on that? Would your department?
That's correct. Public Works would.
Okay,
Or designee. We could seek assistance, but the intent, I think, is to have Public Works do the inspections.
Okay, thank you.
Tom.
I was gonna say on restaurants that have been built, they've got grease traps already built in, don't they, that are inspected? And the grease is cleaned up or pumped out?
They have logs that they're keeping. They're submitting those on a quarterly basis. We've talked about lengthening that out a bit to where, you know, we don't necessarily need it quarterly. We just need records anytime that they're having that performed. And these major grease companies are providing that. These hauling companies are providing that information.
That was my point. If it's, the business was built as a restaurant that's got a grease trap, they're going through that media to dispose of it. What happens when we get somebody that moves into an area that hasn't been a restaurant? Are they barreling it and getting it picked up, or how are they doing that?
Well, this ordinance would actually require any food establishment to come into compliance with having either the interceptor or the trap, depending on what their service is.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Charles.
Is this ordinance the same ordinance that a restaurant would have to follow if they were in Wichita or Bel Air? Or
No.
this is our own ordinance?
Not a resident, it's commercial.
Pardon?
Not residence, it's not like for your house.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you had a, I don't know what I said.
Said resident,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, if you had a restaurant, you know, in Bel Air or Valley Center, do they follow this same ordinance? Is this one that's generic to all the?
It's not a model ordinance necessarily. It is tailored to Park City. Wichita's ordinance differs from this. Other surrounding city ordinances differ from this. We did gather some input from some business owners, from some restaurants, as well as looking at the ordinances of surrounding cities. But ultimately, this, I think, most closely resembles McPherson, but is not identical.
Okay, I guess my other question is, why is the Department of Agriculture not doing this? It looks like this would be something that would be under their restaurant inspections. That's never been done that way, evidently, huh?
I think our effort with this is the pre-treatment component is really keeping it out of our wastewater system to help CCUA with some of those fats, oils, and greases to help keep the different levels down.
Okay, but we do the inspections. That was George's question too. We do all the inspections on it then.
We would, yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you, Charles. Brandy.
I think this is a good move. CCUA did have EPA come in and do a surprise inspection, and some of the issues that they found was with the fog in the system, and a lot of it was traced back to Park City, so this is a good move for us to help to improve that. So with that, I move to approve ordinance 1171-2023, an ordinance amending Article 9 of the Municipal Code related to grease management, requiring minimum equipment to control grease discharge, maintenance, and monitoring requirements of food service facilities for controlling the discharge of grease, authorizing establishments of rates, fees, and charges for grease management, and providing for enforcement procedures.
Tom.
I'll second
it. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, motion by Brandy, seconded by Tom. There's a roll call vote.
Charlie Davidson.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Charles Swanky.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. On to item 10, discuss and consider approving a contract with Schulte Supply for total water meter replacement project.
Council previously approved staff to advertise a request for proposals for a citywide water meter replacement. Staff received 3 proposals, and a selection committee comprised of 3 staff members and Councilmember Tom Jones met to discuss and score the proposals. The committee is recommending Schulte Supply, Inc. with their Neptune product proposal. Schulte Supply provided an advanced metering infrastructure solution that best meets our needs while also being the lowest bid. AMI metering provides for remote collection of water use data in real time, supports more frequent billing, and most importantly, allows our staff to quickly identify excessive water use that could be the result of leaks. Upon approval by council, staff will begin working with Schulte Supply to establish timelines for deliverables. And project is to be paid from ARPA funds initially, followed by the utility surplus fund in an amount not to exceed $2,602,180.40.
Thank you, Gina.
And Schulte is here if you guys have product-specific questions, but I can stand for any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Gina. George?
Is this going to affect our water rates in any way? Is that a guarantee?
Council sets the water rates. It is not our recommendation to increase water rates. If I may, the one thing that she brought up is utilizing the ARPA funds. We all know that we had until the end of '24 to identify what we're going to choose as a particular project, and then we have until '26 to spend them. And we just kind of sat there and said, when a project comes along that we know we'd be able to expend it all on one project, because we're going to have federal oversight on that, this seems to be a very appropriate one. So that right there in itself is not impacting the utility at all. That's the first half of it paid for via ARPA. So no, sir, it is not our intention to request any kind of rate increase as a result of meters.
Okay, well, I think it's a good deal, but I know we just went through a water rate increase, and I'm not ready for another one. Thank you.
Tom?
I had read that, and I know that it's going to come out of the utility surplus for anything that ARPA doesn't pay for. Do we have any idea how much they may pay, or a round number that they may cover?
The utility surplus?
No, for the ARPA funds.
The ARPA
Of the
is
2.6, are they going to give us $1.5 million, or, you know?
It was in here.
ARPA is 1.17 mil that we have, and the rest would be out of the utility surplus fund.
Okay. I didn't know what the percentage was, that's why I was asking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Randy?
So I know you said this covers replacing all the water meters, but does that also include the, like, new construction that's going on now? It will go and replace all of those that are in there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
We did project for several hundred to account for new development that would occur from the span of the project beginning to the 12-month completion date.
Okay. Oh, and so that's what's going to be my next question. I know you said it's going to be on a timeline, but what do you estimate that, how long this would take? You said 12 months?
Yeah, we had written 12 months into the request for proposals. It's our understanding that it will take every bit of 12 months to probably accomplish this.
And will that be Schulte? Will they bring people in to do that, or is it our staff that will be out there putting in the meters?
So Schulte would actually bring staff in for the meters. There are some line items that you might have seen on the bid tab. We had totaled 1 through 10, which is purely material, supply, what they would pay for labor. And then we have our 11 through 14, which were labor items that we asked them to price, but we don't necessarily guarantee to contract to them.
Okay.
So we would try to absorb as much of that labor cost 11 through 14 in-house as we could.
Okay, thank you.
Charles?
I'm very much in favor of this. I think there'll be so many pluses to having this. One of the things I was going to ask, you can monitor the usage, instantly and detect a leak, basically, from your office. Is there a way for the customer to go online and view his own usage during the course of a water billing period?
This proposal does include a pretty extensive customer portal that would allow them to see their usage, try to hit targets, get leak alerts, notifications as they would set up.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute great idea, and it's a good way to spend that money. I would go ahead and make the motion. Move to approve the contract with Schulte Supply for a total of water meter replacement plan for amount not to exceed $2.602 and $180.40 to be paid from the ARPA funds and the utility surplus funds.
Tom?
I'm going to second that, but I have a comment to make about this too. Doesn't discuss the savings to the city on labor for going out and reading them. It doesn't cover rereads or misreads. This is instant. When they push the button, it'll read them, and everybody gets read the same day. So you don't have to worry about early and late reads, which the city gets a lot of complaints about. It's just plus plus.
So turn-offs, turn-back-ons
Yep.
happen from the desk?
Not necessarily, they could, depending on which meter we put into place. So there are meter models that would allow you with the push of a button to shut somebody off and turn them back on. It's not cost-effective to install every household with that meter, but we could look at using them in problematic areas.
And you did say at the last meeting when we talked about this, you'd be able to log on to like a portal or something and see your usage and stuff?
Correct.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Any further discussion on this? We have a motion by Charles, seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to item 11, discuss and consider approval of a bid from Pearson Construction for paving improvements for 61st Street North and Broadway and 85th Street North.
Bid opening was conducted on June 29th for these projects listed above. A total of 3 bids were received, and Kansas Paving was the apparent low bidder with a combined bid of $455,788.75. Pearson Construction was the next lowest bidder with a combined bid of $526,988.75. Both bids were below the engineer's estimate of $581,715. And while Pearson Construction was not the low bidder, staff is recommending council select Pearson and award the bid according to Park City purchasing policy, the bid that will be most advantageous to the city, taking into consideration price, trade-in or exchange values, ability to perform, and other such factors as present by city staff. Staff's recommendation is based on our recent experience with Kansas Paving during the 61st Street Roundabout project. You will find in your packet the 61st Street North and Broadway Avenue 2-inch mill and overlays totaled $371,131.25. The ultra-thin bonded overlay on 85th Street North, often referred to as NovaChip, came in at $155,857.50. And I will stand for any questions you may have.
Jeannie, does it say in here somewhere, we talked about it earlier, but the project at 61st and Broadway, I just want to verify and make sure that that does include the area at 61st near 135. Where would I see that in here? I just don't see it.
I did not include a map of these projects. They are, as we had discussed at the most recent update on the rehabilitation program. For the 2-inch mill and overlay, it's 3 of those 4 spokes from the roundabout. So it would be your section to the north on Broadway, your section to the south on Broadway, and then your section starting up, it's a bit past the east point of the roundabout, heading east to Jacksonville.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I would entertain a motion. Jim?
I don't have any questions. I just lost my place here, but I would move to approve the bid tabulation and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Pearson Construction in an amount not to exceed $526,988.75 to be paid from the Special Streets and Highway Fund.
Thank you, Jim. Charles?
Second.
Charlie, I mean. Is there any further discussion on this? Motion by Jim, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12. For D. discuss and consider the Sedgwick County Notice of Revenue Neutral Rate intent form for the 2024 budget process.
As you are all aware, the revenue neutral rate, or the R&R as we've referred to it, is the mill levy computed using the current estimated assessed valuation that exactly equals the amount of ad valorem taxes levied in the previous year. Entities that are planning to exceed the R&R must inform the county clerk by July 20th of their intent to do so, the proposed mill levy, and the date, time, and location of the tax rate hearing. This is the second year that the county clerk will utilize the information that we submit in order to notify taxpayers via mail or email of all the taxing subdivisions that are planning to exceed their R&R. The Sedgwick County Notice of Revenue Neutral Rate intent form, as currently completed in your packets, reflects that the City of Park City intends to exceed the R&R for the 2024 budget, that the proposed mill levy is the same as last year's final mill levy, 44.459 mills, and that the tax rate hearing will be held in the City Administration Building at 7:00 p.m. on August 22nd, 2023. Staff recommends approval.
George Glover.
Yeah, I don't have any questions on this. I'll go ahead and move to approve the Notice of Revenue Neutral Rate intent form and to authorize the Finance Director to submit the form to the Sedgwick County Clerk.
Thank you, George. Jim?
I'd second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Jim, start with governing body reports.
It was great to see everybody on the 4th of July celebration, and it was nice to have a day that wasn't 100 degrees. So even though it was warm, it could have been worse. So it was nice to see everybody and appreciate everybody coming out.
Brandy?
I echo that with Jim, and he didn't mention the band, but the band was really good for the evening event, so I like that, and there's lots of people that did come out, and there was even some cute little girls out there dancing, so that made it even more enjoyable. Second, tomorrow is a big day for me and my other duties. The tax and tag office will open here at Park City Administration Building starting at 8 a.m. and we'll be here on the second and third Wednesdays of each month. And as of the time I left my office, I only had 3 openings still left for tomorrow. So it should be a full day, and hopefully we'll go through it without a hiccup.
Thank you. George?
I'd just like to take time to thank Sean. We asked for something to be done about our turnover rate, and looks to me like Sean has moved forward. I like his plan, and I think he's looking out for the employees. It's appreciated.
Thank you, George. Tom?
Don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Charles?
I was really impressed with the 4th of July. This is the first year I really took part in it, you know, and knew what all was going on. I am just really surprised at all the work that gets done by a volunteer committee. So I want to give them all the kudos. That's all I got.
Thank you. George?
Yeah, I also want to thank our Community Relations Board and their efforts with the parade and also the events over there at the park. I thought they did an outstanding job, so I appreciate that. I'm sure the residents do too. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Charles?
I was very impressed with the financial audit. I've been on council for over a year and continue to hear positive things from our finance team. So thanks to Dee and Sean for your leadership there, and all the finance department as well. That's all I have.
Very good, and I don't have anything tonight. I would entertain a non-debatable motion to adjourn. Charlie?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Jim?
Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.